start me. And then came the rush of the flood. Stars of night turned deep to dust.
I'm begging you, just really think about what you're asking of us.
We want you to be involved.
In our own son's life?
We can't expect you to know what this feels like.
No, because he can't know, I can't know. We can't fucking know, but he is still our son. And you may have a vagina and a womb, Del, but that does not make you any more of a parent to that child than we are. And you're both being fucking selfish right now.
We know! We know that.
Why am I pulling on this thread?
Nice. Or is it all inside my head? Why am I pulling on this thread? Maybe it's just better left unsaid. Yes, I actually like that.
That's sweet.
Oh, shit! I have to go. I'll bring you later.
Okay, cool.
See ya.
See ya.
He's a good man.
Would a good man do that to all those women? Would a good person allow that to happen to all those women?
Do you think I'm a good person?
I think you were confused. Would you go back to him?
Yes.
Can you kiss?
We can't be friends because I'm in love with you, and I have been for years. And if you don't feel the same, then that's it. Right?
Right.
Hi everyone, you already know me. I'm CHRISTIE STRATOS, author of Anatomy of a Darkened Heart, Lock and Key, and host of The Writer's Edge. We are so lucky today to have an incredible filmmaker with us, Sherren Lee. So Sherren, please tell us about yourself.
Hey everyone, I'm a filmmaker in Canada. I'm currently based in Toronto, and I'm from Taiwan. I was born there, and ever since I was a kid, I wanted to act. So I did that for a long time, but just like at school plays and stuff. And then when I was in university, I directed a play for the first time, and then I was hooked and I never acted again and decided I wanted to be a director.
Is there anything that you like the most? It's directing, it sounds like, even more so than screenplay writing, or both?
The most, I have to say, it's really hard to pick because
Mm.
every part is so much fun. Like I love, I think one of my favorite parts definitely is development
Mhm.
of if I don't write my own stories, I work really closely with the writers. And just to make sure, like when you know that you got something really clear, um, really interesting across to your reader or to your audience, that's really amazing. But you know, on set, if we're just talking about production, I just love working with actors. I think I mean, I think coming from, you know, wanting to be an actor, I'm fascinated by acting, and I'm so in awe of actors. I think they're just the most, you know, generous and vulnerable people, and we really rely on them and to connect with them and to be able to like bring out like these incredible performances from them, and then having them be really, you know, helping shape a story through creating these people, you know. It's really fun.
Yeah, and it's great that it sounds like there's no part you really don't like, you know, which is awesome. But I did notice that you use some actors over and over again, some actors and actresses, and they're really fantastic, and it's amazing to watch them change. They're just completely changed through every film they do with you. Do you have something in particular that you look for in those actors or actresses that you work with over and over again?
Definitely I'm drawn to people who are just really open to kind of like figuring out what this is, like what this person, who this person is, and really drilling down to the core of um, who these characters are and what drives them. And you know, I have like a no asshole policy as well. I just am really drawn to people that are pleasant to work with, and like we just are become friends. I think that's why I work with the same actors, because we kind of fall in love with each other's skills and like talent and like personalities, and you want to nurture those relationships.
How would you describe your own directorial style?
That's a great question. I think I learned. I attended the Canadian Film Center in 2014, and you know, I applied when I was applying for the program. People always ask you, "What's your voice? What's your voice?" And I've thought about this a lot. Your voice is actually who you are, and it's not about, you know, deciding what your voice is and trying to fit into that. I started my career by doing a lot of romantic films that are, you know, romance movies, I guess. And then I thought, oh, I'm the romance director. I like tell romantic stories. And then I was like, no, actually, I think it's just a matter of like stripping away. It's not about defining it. It's about trying to be as authentic as possible and just being yourself, because the more you can do that, the more unique you'll be, because there's nobody else out there who like you.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a hard thing to explain, but it's kind of intangible.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. It does. Just sort of letting yourself take the lead on your own without trying to define it makes a lot of sense to me. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's a great way. Like you said, it creates a unique voice. That makes a lot of sense.
Cool.
I feel like that's the case with a lot of creativity. As a writer, you know, it's the same kind of thing. If you're trying to fit into that mold, what you say is completely applicable. It's going to be tougher, and it's not going to make you unique. It's just going to make you fit a mold that could be difficult for you, and maybe
Yeah,
you don't come across as well even.
yeah. And I think you can be really good at doing that,
Hmm.
at fitting into a mold, and people do it really well. And to a certain extent, you do that on certain projects.
Hmm.
Um, but it's like an interesting balance for sure.
Yeah, definitely. If you wanted to be, you know, directing or creating films similar to someone else or similar, well, you never want to be too similar to someone else, but if you wanted to fit into a category, probably for an award or something, maybe that would influence
Right.
a little
I'm
bit.
thinking more about like television, you know,
Mm,
if you're working for hire, or um, you know, if you're working on any branded content, you might have to kind of shift the
yeah.
way that you picture something. But that's also coming from your brain and your imagination. So I think it's not possible to detach yourself completely of that process, but the approach might be a little bit different.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense too.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about the lighting in your films. I feel like the lighting in your films really sets the mood so beautifully. I noticed it right away.
Oh,
And
cool.
yeah, and I felt that it had like such a huge impact on how the point of any film comes across. But like I said, I noticed it so much with yours. So I wanted to ask you, what role does lighting play in getting your ideas across?
You know, it's funny. I work well. I have to give the credit to my cinematographers. They're very talented, and we do a lot of prep. I when I direct, my first lighting is not the first thing that comes to my mind, like in terms like of the technicalities of it.
Mhm.
But I didn't go to film school, so I don't have, you know, very specific technical training. I've been working in the industry for, you know, over 10 years, so I know a lot of stuff, but that's not really how I guess my brain works. I firstly will approach it in a storytelling point of view, and I'll just kind of picture the movie in my head, and then I always have, you know, lots of photos for my cinematographers to let them know what I'm thinking, so they have a reference point. And then we really try and go through each shot, like even when we go onto our set for our tech scouts, we really go through every angle.
Yeah, I particularly noticed that in The Things You Think I'm Thinking, which I'm going to mention that one a lot because I was so, it's your most recent that I have seen, and it's currently making the rounds. And I
Yes.
really loved it. I thought it was brilliant. And the lighting in there really set the mood. And like you said, it supported it so well. Really, as soon as it starts, you can kind of start getting a vibe, even though I'm not going to, you know, give any spoilers here so that everybody goes and watches it. But you know, initially there's a happy scene, and yet the lighting is a little bit dark, and then we move into the real life of this person. And I thought that it was a really great introduction to what it's really going to be about.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I really wanted to start the movie with an intimate setting, and you know, it's dark. It's like you don't maybe quite see what's going. I mean, it's not super dark. It's just kind of like you're at a party. It's nighttime, and we use atmosphere in that scene, and just to make everything a little bit like have a bit more kind of texture. We did that all in one shot. Um, and yeah, and then cut to kind of his real, you know, it's morning and everything is on the table, you know, and then everything is quiet, everything is still, and he's alone and it's bright.
I've noticed a great amount of diversity in your films, and I couldn't
Mm.
help but notice that it came across so natural. And the reason I noticed that is because in America, at least as far as my experience goes, a lot of times diversity can feel very forced, even though it's such a hot topic here and people want to see a lot more diversity in movies and in books, any form of creativity. So I wanted to ask, do you go out of your way to ensure that your films are diverse, or is it just a more common practice in Canada than it is here in America?
You do have to go out of your way. In Toronto, I'm from Toronto here, and to go outside, there's diversity, and it's strange that we still have to try so hard to find diverse actors. Just goes to show how unbalanced it is still. Even when you're looking, it's hard to find.
So what themes, now we're onto themes a little bit. So what themes would you say are most important to you to put into your films? I notice, especially since you do some amount of writing for some of the things that you film, I noticed myself as a viewer that there were a lot of acceptance themes and overarching, especially in like the key and which way to happiness, what is life about types of themes. So I wondered if there was anything in particular you like to get across.
It's funny, I find that my films, to me, are like little theses. Like, instead of writing a paper, I'm making a movie about something. And they kind of, for me, are a question or one thing about our lives. And I'm really drawn to films that don't have a bad guy in a way. It's just about, you know, there's lots of struggle in life already. So I think they're really grounded. And for me, ultimately, I have this mandate on my wall that, you know, the reason that I make movies is to try to better understand other people and hope to create empathy for other people.
I can say for sure that in The Things You Think I'm Thinking, I definitely felt that. And I can say that there was a sort of natural compassion for the main character. And I thought that that was going to be the point, just the compassion aspect. But you also created such a range of emotions that I didn't expect to feel. And that in itself was fascinating to me. It went in so many directions that I just didn't see coming. I think that when we deal with difficult situations, difficult topics, even taboo topics, things that shouldn't be taboo necessarily, but people are afraid to talk about, we all make assumptions, you know, that it's just going to be, oh, let's feel compassion, let's feel empathy, but there's so much more. And it was a much deeper and from a much different perspective than I expected. And you turned it on its head, and I just thought it was totally brilliant.
That's awesome. It was very, very crucial for me to not make a movie about that people are going to like pity the character. Like, pity, I think, is a very different thing. And I think there's enough. I don't want to tell another story of like character is struggling and like how awful this person's life is, and I really wanted to kind of normalize, just like, instead of being like, look how different and how sad and how terrible. Like, I didn't want to show someone who had no friends and lived in like a terrible apartment and like was angry and yes, like I think all of those things are. I wanted him to have all of the feelings that we all have. You know, that he has friends, he has a beautiful apartment, and like, yes, his demons might be a little bit bigger, but we have the same ones.
I read recently that there is only one female director for every 22 male directors, which blew my mind. I knew it was unbalanced, but that was like, wow. So I wanted to ask you, what impact does that have on you, if any, in terms of getting your film seen or getting credit for your creativity? Is there any difference in the respect you're shown as a female director, or is there any impact on you?
Well, I think that considering the stats, there's definitely an impact. I think that it's scary to hear those things. I watched a documentary called Half the Picture that was made this year about women directors in Hollywood. It premiered at Sundance. And to see, you know, what the state is currently is discouraging, but it's also very inspiring to see how women are, you know, fighting this and how the conversation is changing. So I think that's very, very, it's all good. But, you know, somebody told me the other day, this is a great time to be a female filmmaker. And I was like, well, it's a better time to be a female filmmaker right now because we're fighting, but I hope that in 10 years it'll be a good time, because then hopefully it'll be equal then.